Food of the gods. I mean, that's its literal meaning, Theobroma cacao. The name alone, it's like a whisper of where it came from, this divine origin. But the sweet, smooth chocolate that we all know today, that's a totally modern invention. To really get what chocolate is all about, we have to go way back. Back to a time when it wasn't a treat at all. It was a form of power. So, our story, it doesn't start in a candy wrapper. It starts deep inside a bitter seed. A seed that, believe it or not, was going to change the entire world. All right, so to start this journey, you kind of have to set aside everything you think you know about chocolate. This is not a story about sweetness. It's a story about reverence. I mean, for over 4,000 years, long before it was ever a bar, cacao was this divine substance for cultures like the Olmecs, the Maya, and the Aztecs. It was literally woven into their rituals, their economy. It was seen as this gift that came straight from the gods. And what's interesting is that name, Theobroma cacao, was actually given in the 18th century by a botanist, but it just perfectly captured a truth they'd understood for thousands of years. This was never just some plant. It was a bridge to the divine. Okay, so if it wasn't candy, then what was it? I want you to just imagine this for a second. Picture a ritual, deep inside a Mesoamerican city. The air is thick with smoke and incense, and a drink is being prepared. This was the original chocolate, and it wasn't sweet at all. It was intensely bitter. It was spicy from chili peppers, kind of gritty with cornmeal, and they would pour it from these great heights back and forth between pots, all to create this thick, really prized foam that would sit on top of the drink like a crown. When you think about it, the difference is it's huge. We look for comfort and sweetness in our chocolate. They were looking for energy, for power, for a connection to something bigger than themselves. It was all about sustenance, not indulgence. And get this, the beans themselves were actual currency. In the Aztec Empire, they were so valuable, you could trade just 100 of them for a whole turkey hen. I mean, this was literally the gold of the ancient world, and it just grew on trees. So when the Spanish finally showed up, they were completely shocked by how bitter this drink was. But at the same time, they were just in awe of its effects. Hernan Cortés himself wrote about how 1 cup could sustain a person for an entire day without food. That really says something about the power locked inside that seed. And that moment, the journey of the cacao bean across the Atlantic, that is probably the single biggest turning point in its entire history. It was just a complete collision of worlds. You have to understand, the European palate just had no frame of reference for something like this. This bitter, spicy drink, it tasted medicinal, almost alien to them. So for chocolate to even survive in this new world, it had to be completely reinvented. And that transformation, it started in Spain. First, they took out the chili peppers. Then they added something new: cane sugar, cinnamon, vanilla. The bitterness was finally tamed, and what grew in its place was a whole new obsession that just took over Europe. And Spain guarded this new discovery like a state secret. Seriously, for almost 100 years, chocolate was this secret indulgence of the Spanish aristocracy. It was this huge symbol of wealth and power, just sipped in quiet halls by the absolute elite. So for centuries, chocolate stayed a drink, a very luxurious one, sure, but still just a liquid. It was the Industrial Revolution that was going to change all of that, taking chocolate out of the cup and putting it right into our hands. What happened next was this rapid-fire series of inventions in the 19th century that gave us the chocolate bar we know and love. It all kicked off in 1828 with the cocoa press. This was the key. It let them separate cocoa powder from cocoa butter. Then, in 1847, an English company had this brilliant idea to mix them back together with sugar, and boom, the very first solid chocolate bar was born. After that, the Swiss really perfected it, right? Daniel Peter and Henri Nestlé added milk for that creaminess, and then Rudolf Lindt invented the conching machine, and that was the final touch. That's what created that signature, smooth, melt-in-your-mouth texture. And with every single one of these innovations, production got cheaper and way more efficient. Suddenly, you have mass production techniques, pioneered by guys like Hershey in America, and what was once a rare luxury for kings and queens, well, it became an affordable, everyday comfort for pretty much everyone. So there it is. The bitter seed was tamed, it was sweetened, and it was sold to the whole world. But why does it still have such a hold on us? Is it really just the sugar? Or is there something else going on? Something that connects us all the way back to those ancient rituals? Well, the answer starts with a simple, almost magical number, 93 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the melting point of cocoa butter. And that right there is the secret to the whole sensory experience. See, 93 degrees is just a tiny bit below our own body temperature. And that means chocolate is one of the only foods on Earth that stays solid at room temperature, but then melts perfectly, almost instantly, the moment it's in your mouth. It's a simple physical property, but it feels like pure alchemy. But it goes even deeper than that. The seed itself is like this tiny, complex chemical factory. Inside, you've got theobromine, which is a mild, long-lasting stimulant. It also helps our brains produce serotonin, the mood elevator. And it even has something called phenylethylamine, which is the exact same chemical our brain releases when we fall in love. The ancients, they didn't know any of the science, of course, but they absolutely felt its power. They weren't wrong to call it the food of the gods. So, the next time you unwrap a chocolate bar and you break off a piece and just let it melt on your tongue, think about that incredible journey, all the way from a bitter, sacred seed to a sweet, global sensation. And maybe ask yourself, are you just satisfying a sweet tooth? Or are you answering a much, much older call?